And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're going to be taking a look at Wave 4 for the Star Trek Attack Wing game. And now this one was one people were very excited about because it has the first Borg ship, the Borg Sphere that comes with it. A couple things I'd like to make clear before I get into this. One, I've played with this stuff, but I really feel like I'm still just barely getting a grasp on all of it. The stuff here is very different than what I've seen. We have some mega powerful ships here. The Borg have a lot of special rules, as well as the bioship here, the bioship from species 8472. Now, this is my other caveat. I've watched a lot of Star Trek, but I did not watch the entire Voyager series. In fact, I only watched it sporadically, so I never saw the parts where they have this these species 8472. But these guys apparently are incredibly powerful, and it's really cool because I thought the Borg were powerful, but according to what I'm reading here, they are fighting against one another. Also, I don't know my Star Trek lore absolutely correctly, so I might mispronounce some things, and I apologize. I even looked some of them up online, and I couldn't find a Star Trek pronunciation guide. So if I pronounce them incorrectly, my apologies. I'm a very much of a novice Trekker, but I do like the stuff that comes with this one. Let me show you it. Okay, the first thing we want to do is we want to look at the models. Okay, so the models, again, Star Trek models are probably not as good as, let's say, X-Wing, but I think these models are still pretty cool. I especially like the sphere here. I like how it looks. It's just cool to see this ball hurtling through space and attacking enemy ships. This is, of course, one of the most famous of all the Enterprise ships, the Voyagers, and it looks pretty cool. And then I think this one is maybe the lamest looking of the ships, but then again, it looks kind of lame, I think, when I saw it in the TV show. And then the Bioship Alpha one, this one is kind of a cool looking ship. I just like the way that it appears in this game. So that's how the ships look. Now let's take a look a little bit about how they move. Now the Enterprise movement card is pretty straightforward. It can't really do a lot of super fast maneuvering. Oh, let me rephrase that. It can certainly do a lot of fast movement. It always makes me happy when I have a chance to bring out my sixth level thing to fly very quickly. And this it doesn't have any kind of reverse or make any kind of U-turns, but it can, and it can do pretty well, and there's no red on it. Now the Borg ship moves completely different than any other ship in any of these games. And you'll see here that it can go straight forward or straight backwards, or it can go straight sideways. But it actually doesn't go sideways. The way this works is, let's say I do a 4 to the side, okay? So the way I would do that is first I place a 1 marker next to the ship. I then rotate it 90 degrees in the direction it's going to go, and then I place the 4 marker down and I move it forward. By the way, obviously these little movement things here do not come with the game. They're Litco. They're made by Litco. I just like them, and they say set phasers to stun. Anyhow, although I never do that. The other two ships move pretty much identically. The Bioship, although you can see they have different firing arcs on them, but both of these ships move pretty much the exact same way, where they have some stress turns that they can take. Whoops, mixed the cards up. No, I didn't mix the cards up. Anyway, so real quick look at their movement. But for me, the movement card, like I said, the Borg card is the movement card that, really catches my eye. But there's other things to be interested about these ships. This ship here is really kind of a small ship. There's really nothing special about the ship itself. When we go up to the Raider here, when you attack a ship with a scan token next to it, you get a +2 attack. So there's that. Gives you a reason to scan enemy ships and go after it. This is one that you would want to get several of if you're going to play with these. The Federation ship is a pretty good one. As I mentioned before, the speed of it is really nice, but it also, especially if you upgrade it to the Voyager, having 5 shields and 4, and instead of making a normal attack with your primary weapon, you can shoot in any direction with 1 to 2 dice. In range 1 to 2, and you get your full 4 dice when you do so. If you do so, put a power token. I don't use that very often because, well, I hate putting those power tokens next to my thing, but at the same time, the fact that I can shoot in any direction if you get too close is a nice thing for the Voyager to have. both of these ships pale in comparison to the Borg and the Bioship. I mean, look at that. They both have 6 attack dice. The Borg ship has no maneuvering, but I don't think it really matters, and we'll talk about why later. And they both have high shields and high structure. And then, of course, when I go up to, like, for example, Borg Sphere 4270, this one can split its attack between 2 different opponents, which is a really cool feature to have. And this one, when it attacks with a primary weapon, if it does at least 3 damage, puts an auxiliary power token next to the target ship. Both of these are mean, but they both can get worse. So let's look and see what comes in the Raider pack, which the K-Zone pack, it really is kind of the smallest pack. But I mean, if you want the full Star Trek experience, I guess you'll get it. Here we have a guy who can re-roll a blank result 1 time. This guy here can discard an upgrade. But it does have some cool weapons. You have the photonic charges and the masking circuitry. And then, of course, some of these guys who really look very much like Klingons. Anyway, this one you can target somebody and you can get rid of an upgrade on their ship. So, again, it has that saboteur type feeling, and then a raiding party, which is cool. And if I use these ships, I will often add these guys to the ship so that I can steal upgrades from other ships. Now, the Voyager set comes with the most stuff in it. I mean, there's a lot of pieces in this one. In fact, for one of the scenarios, you fight against some Borg cubes. So it comes with some Borg cubes for you to fight against. Now, I would prefer to use the actual Borg cube, and we'll talk about this ship next week. It's coming out in a wave very soon. But it has a lot of stuff in this set. One of the things it has here is this generator, which allows you, basically replaces your shields. And once you replace the shields, you put like a token on there to show that. And you can't cloak or anything, but basically all your critical hits become regular hits. And the damage cards, you can stick them underneath this thing, and it takes 5 damage cards to get rid of it. That could be pretty good, especially when you're fighting against some big stuff. And also, you have 7 of 9, who can put a token on something, which allows you to adapt other technologies. You can get upgrades from other folks and other ships, which is a cool thing. And of course, everybody's going to want 7 of 9 on their ship. But this, she's not the only character in the game. We have, of course, the Doctor, and we have Tuvok, and all the different, most of the main characters from it. Tom Paris, and of course, Captain Janeway. But the Enterprise comes with more than just the cool captain. By the way, I do like Captain Janeway because you can put an extra token of that type. Basically, she can take an action twice, but she has to put the auxiliary power token next to the ship. So she's on the Voyager, which makes sense. The Voyager has multiple ways of taking these power tokens, because it pushes the limits, which was, of course, the theme of the show, Voyager. And then you also have this bio-neural circuitry here, where you can disable this to re-roll the dice, which is something that you might need to do in desperation. You get some more photon torpedoes, but you get these transphasic torpedoes, which are 10. It's crazy. Got to get a target lock, and you can fire it from your forward or rear firing arcs. Really cool thing. Only the Voyager can have this. And it's also used in some very specific scenarios. And of course it costs 10 points, which makes it very pricey. But you're going to need it if you go up against the Borg. You can also sacrifice your captain to choose the results of 2 dice, and those dice can't be re-rolled for the remainder of this attack when you re-roll. So there's some pretty interesting things that come with the Voyager. Also, this captain, who no one cares about. The Borg ships come with some Borg upgrade slots, which only can be filled with Borg, and they also come with drone tokens, which it shows here, and there's also a chance for their ships to regenerate. They have on the ship itself a regenerate token, which basically means you can perform that and heal a damage to your hull, which is really annoying when you're going up against the Borgs. So basically these drone tokens can be used against your opponents to do different things. You'll have these drone tokens, and the more of them you remove, the worse your captain's skill gets. But for example, like you have this Borg assimilation tubles. You can disable discard, and discard a drone token for another ship, and you can basically steal an upgrade. Like take Picard, if you'd so like. And so that's always a cool thing, and it's very thematic. 7 of 9 comes here to give you extra drone tokens. You have the Borg tractor beam. Now this one is a really cool thing, and you want to add this to your ships, because basically you get these tractor beam tokens that you will place on the Borg ship and on the ship that it's targeting, and you can draw it in. It can try to escape from the tractor beam. But if you get it close enough and you have this cutting beam, holy moly, that is 10 dice you are going to roll against the enemy ship. And that's not it. You have the hull armor. I mean, you could really spend a lot of points on a Borg ship, because you can see these cost 10 here. And basically this is very similar to the special armor that the Enterprise can get. A feedback pulse when you're defending. And then, of course, a few captains here. Each captain gets a certain number of drones. The captains for the Borg aren't anything impressive, but are you kidding me? Look at all the weapons they can take. Now, as I said, I'm not really up to date on the bioship stuff, but I can see here that the bioship stuff is extremely nasty. Their ship is already powerful enough. Oh, they're also quite ugly. And here, basically, this guy can pick his maneuver after looking at everyone else's maneuver around him. But they also have some just really cool stuff. They're really cool weapons, this energy blast, which is, any ship can take this, I suppose, but it's 7 dice from a Species 8472 bioship. Or this energy focusing ship. I mean, just some really powerful weapons. Of course, this one costs 10. And then things like this, the weak will perish. When you attack with your primary weapon, after you roll the dice, you can discard to choose any number of your attack dice and re-roll them up to 2 times. Now, anybody can take this. It's going to cost anyone else 10 points, but it costs them 5 points, which is just a really cool thing, again, to have. Or you can roll an extra defense dice by using the extraordinary immune response. Or you have the bioelectrical interference, or a biological attack, or the quantum singularity. All these things are really cool things, and in fact, you can take 2 major ships up against each other. You load up the bioship and take it up against the Borg, and you're going to have some pretty nasty stuff that you can attack each other with. There's not much else to say here. I mean, I like all these. The Bioship and the Voyager and the Borg Sphere are must-buys, in my opinion, because, for one thing, it's fun to take one of these Bioship alphas, or to take the Borg Sphere to pump them up. I mean, put a lot of weapons, and then take a few or several Klingons and go up against them, or some Romulans, you know. How would the Romulans do against the Borg? Or, my favorite, how do the Klingons do against the Borg? Just to buff them up. Of course, the fact is the best ship to fight the Borg at this point in time is the Voyager itself. And of course, you want to do that, use the Federation. And it's fun to do that. And it's fun to put Kirk on the Voyager. That's what I love about this game. You know, Kirk on the Voyager going up against the Borg. It's a pretty neat idea. If so, hopefully this gives you some idea if you want to add these packs to your ever-growing Star Trek Attack Wing expansion. I think that's very fun. For me, this is like the coolest set so far, if only because it brings in new races and new things and new powerful stuff.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
There.